Hey everybody, my name is Santiago Giraldo. I am the Senior Director of Product Marketing for Artificial Intelligence at Snowflake. I'm joined here today with Brian Newman, who is the SVP of Engineering for Decile, one of our customers that's using our latest innovation called Snowflake Intelligence. So to dive right in, we recently made an announcement around the release of Snowflake Intelligence to address a very critical problem that many enterprises face today. And that's the disparities and the differences between how business teams and data teams actually operate and work together to solve problems. Up until today, and really I'm sure a lot of you have experienced, that there's a big gap between how the business users actually utilize data and how the data teams actually deliver that data. One of the big disparities that we've seen is the fact that data teams spend a lot of cycles creating static reports or reports that take a lot of time to actually reach that insight. And by the time that you actually get that insight, it's already too late to act. The solutions that we have today tend to be very rigid and face a lot of problems in terms of how you actually answer and solve problems. So as an example, today it's very easy to ask what? It's very easy to ask, what did my sales look like last week? What campaigns, how did they perform? But one of the big critical gaps here is that those are very singular questions that don't get at the real crux of the problem, which is answering the why things happen and being able to critically analyze and understand what to do next. It's hard for business teams and data teams to be on the same page. You have fragmented data in very disparate systems across different databases. You have siloed insights that oftentimes are coming too late for you to actually act and make decisions. And by the time you actually get that data and you're able to make those decisions and understand what's happening, it's already a bit too late. So what if we changed that? What if we made it possible for every employee across your organization to simply be able to ask questions, do reasoning, and get responses and get solutions much faster, much more quickly, and with just a simple prompt? What if we could remove the barriers between these types of questions and the insight that's required to operate your business? And then what if we take it a step farther and say, what if you could act on this data, and not just the data, but also have a reasoning partner with you that can help you make those decisions? This is why at Snowflake we created the Enterprise Intelligence Agent, and this is what Snowflake Intelligence is. It enables everybody from the C-suite down to the regular business user and everybody in between to ask deep questions of your data, and not just your data, but every system across your organization, whether that's Salesforce, your customer platform, all of your databases, all of your data securely. And it lets you go a step further by using generative AI and leveraging the power of these varied models. It helps you essentially solve these problems and ask these questions that were impossible to answer before. So what is an enterprise intelligence agent? With Snowflake Intelligence, you can do, there's three principles that really guide and essentially give you the power to be able to make decisions in a way that you weren't able to before. First, it enables very deep analysis. So it's not just asking what happened or getting point in time results, but it helps you reason. It helps you ask deeper questions like, what should I do next? How can I actually improve my sales? What are the headwinds that are coming for my business? And it lets you do deep research in a way that wasn't possible before. The second piece here is about trust. So everybody understands that with generative AI models, with a lot of these innovations in Gen AI, it's become increasingly difficult to really understand where those answers are coming from and actually trust the results and trust the decisions that you're making. With Snowflake Intelligence, we've enabled you to have transparent and verified answers. So questions that get asked oftentimes can be completely verified so you know you can trust it. And also you have full traceability. So you're not just receiving, for example, a dashboard or a graph or a response, but you can trace that back all the way to the source and see every piece of data that informed that decision at the end. And then, of course, as you all know, Snowflake is really known for their enterprise readiness. All of this is native to Snowflake, and it's secured and governed directly inside of the Snowflake platform, making sure that you don't have any issues with data quality, with security, or governance overall. What we're trying to do here is really transform the way that you use your enterprise data today and enable high confidence decisions you can trust, and have essentially a reasoning partner with you at your fingertips that can help you make those decisions in real time. So how do we deliver this? There's a couple pieces here inside of Snowflake Intelligence that are incredibly powerful. As an example, the ability to do dynamic discovery. So again, not just looking at the graph, but understanding how that graph was made, having clear explanations of the requests that you're making, but also how it reasoned and came up with a decision for you. It enables everybody in your organization to basically test assumptions, to be able to explore the data, and to develop comprehensive answers that your business can actually operate on. The second piece here is, again, trust. Generative AI has its challenges. Everybody here knows that. One of the things that we've really sought and strived to do is basically create an entire different culture of how you operate and use your data today. What does this mean? It means that you're able to not just ask questions and receive answers in a black box kind of way, but it gives you verified answers. So the questions that get asked across your business essentially can be traced back to every original source. It'll reformulate the questions for you. It'll give you explanations, and everything is transparent, down to the SQL queries that are being produced in the background, and all the reasoning essentially completely open for anybody in the organization to understand how these decisions were made. It enables transparency and observability through and through, so that you know the answers that you're receiving are actually something that's trustworthy and something that you can actually run your business on. And it goes even beyond that. So, of course, generative AI, we can ask questions of it. It can give us answers. But what we've enabled here is really the ability to dive even deeper inside of your data and actually answer those very critical questions that were impossible to answer before. So with things like research mode, it lets you do deep reasoning inside of your information and all of your data across your entire organization to really ask those critical questions that are forward-looking as opposed to just receiving reports. It enables essentially the ability for you to use all your data, your multimodal data, structured, unstructured, in a single place. And it lets you ask questions of this complex data and get comprehensive answers that basically take into account everything that your organization is doing. In addition to that, it enables you to connect to varied sources, from our marketplace to your enterprise data and everything in between. All of this together, so you can ask comprehensive questions with actual real insights that take everything into account, not just a single database or a single source, but everything together to enable those deep questions and deep answers. Basically, with Snowflake Intelligence, we're enabling a new way for your business to operate and work. It's all of your knowledge in one place, it's all of it together, and it lets you ask questions that were impossible to answer before. And all of this in real time, at the fingertips of everybody inside of your organization. So with that, what I'd like to do is introduce Brian here, who is the Senior Vice President of Engineering at Decile. Brian, take it away.
Thanks. And just wanted to introduce Decile really quickly. So we are an e-commerce analytics platform, and dovetailing what Santiago was just speaking about, our mission is really to democratize access to a brand's e-commerce data to everybody at that business, from the marketers to the executives to product managers, so that they can generate insights and action that data without being reliant on an in-house analyst. We work with over 100 of the most successful e-commerce brands. So a lot of the governance and multi-tenancy that comes with Snowflake was really important to us. So just kind of going through our story. Before Snowflake Intelligence, this is kind of what our stack looked like. So we effectively bring together all the data that's really relevant to an e-commerce brand, from their commerce platform like Shopify or Magento, their marketing channels, other plugins that they might be running in the marketing, the e-commerce platform. We also pull in third-party enrichment data from Acxiom to provide our customers with a more well-rounded view of their customers, including demographic and psychographic information. We run all that through our data pipeline into Snowflake, where we basically create a dedicated data warehouse for each of our clients, and then have an application experience sitting on top of that. Now, our applications and the dashboards that we have there, the original intent was really to kind of go beyond the reporting that they had available in their native platforms, in their e-commerce platform, or in their ESP, stitch all that data together to enable like richer customer lifecycle reporting for their e-commerce brand. What we noticed as we pulled all that together is that there's a large variance from like how one brand operates to another brand, right? We onboard some brand and maybe they have like a retail business running on Shopify POS. They're like, hey, well, let's just kind of set that data to the side. Let's just focus on our e-commerce business. Or they want to go deep into like kind of product analytics, but their product analytics may be sitting in their commerce platform. Some of it may be sitting in an ERP. And the more flexibility that we built into our BI dashboards, the more complex it became for the executives, the more non-technical folks to kind of get access to those insights. And they became increasingly reliant on our customer success team to really operate the software for them. So our data analysts were kind of busy developing new features, kind of suturing up all the discrepancies on how they might represent their data on the e-commerce platform. And it ended up that we basically became like an outsourced data team for our clients. So the challenge for us was we've now become the barrier, just like data teams become the barrier for having their executive stakeholders get access to that data in a timely fashion for them to be able to get the insights and activate the marketing tactics that they'd like to. So in the AI world, we kind of took a step back and we thought, how do we remove ourselves as a barrier and once again enable our customers to really get in there and get access to this data quickly? And we started to think about whether or not we could build an AI agent to basically be like our e-commerce analyst, an AI-based e-commerce analyst. And we started to think about like what that would entail for us. We have clients like asking questions. Oftentimes there's a fair amount, and forgive me, probably all of you in the room have gone through this, fair amount of clarification that you need to like dig into to really understand their intent. We really wanted to explain what we were doing for them when they asked a question and why, so they could course correct if needed, or at least they had confidence in the data. We wanted to make sure that we had good monitoring solutions to understand how our clients were using the software, where we could make improvements, what they were expecting out of the AI analyst. Being able to kind of evaluate and test our agent as we made model updates, as we maybe made changes to like some of our data representations. And then ultimately, how do we take all of this and move it into a context they're more familiar with, providing visualizations and insights that they could kind of take to the rest of their business. So we went off earlier this spring, early summer, and started prototyping this against several like kind of AI frameworks, and quickly kind of discovered that this is going to be a significant investment for us, especially for a startup of our size. We had to not only like get the LLMs in, but we had to build up like the vector stores representing the knowledge of like how our brand's data was structured. The brand's not going to come to us and say like, hey, I'm looking for product category X. They're just going to say like, hey, I really want to know about jeans. One client that might be a product category, another client that might be how they label their products, the product title. We need to provide that information to the LLM to be able to like access the right data points. We also wanted to push like additional kind of like analyses and brand context in, so that the agent had that, the LLM had that information. So there was an effort basically about providing context. We also found that the accuracy of the SQL that was coming out of a lot of the solutions we were looking at was subpar. And when it's returning SQL to us, we were like, oh crap, how are we going to explain this to a non-technical person when the SQL goes wrong? That looked like a challenge to us. We had kind of evaluated like other ways to retrieve the data and provide it. But then when we started falling back to using some of our like BI data models, we were concerned that we were going to be limited by the inflexibility of the BI models like we had in our previous like reporting solutions. We really wanted to have something that provided that kind of rich, just generative SQL experience so that we had full expressivity of the SQL to be able to run like whatever analysis that a client wanted to. If they had a really interesting customer segment they wanted to look at, people who purchased X twice and then came back and purchased Y a couple months later, have at it. You can go do that in SQL. It was always a challenge for us to kind of build those things out into our BI models in a way that was accessible. And then at the end of it, it was just like, okay, how do we build the evaluation harness? And then how do we get visualizations back into the user experience? Because at the end of the day, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I think it was at Snowflake Summit last year. In June, we saw the announcement around intelligence, and we started very aggressively asking our rep for access to Snowflake Intelligence to start playing with it. We felt like we were like ripe for like kind of running this exploration. We already had Snowflake data warehouses for each of our clients. So if we were looking at an intelligence solution, we were already going to be able to draft off of all the data governance that we had set up in Snowflake for this new AI offering. There wasn't going to be an additional lift for us on that side, or very limited. We also had a lot of kind of semantic data that we already had in dbt. Even when we were building this out against AI, we were like, okay, where do we get the semantic information to really feed into the models to understand like how they're pulling this data? So we had this in dbt, and we were like, okay, this looks extremely promising for us. So we started to look at what was going to take for us to set up Snowflake Intelligence. And really, there's only a couple of things. We wanted to set up a semantic view, or multiple views, per client. And the semantic view, think of it as like describing your dimensions, your facts, your table structure, the relationships there, and wrapping all of that into descriptions, more natural language descriptions for the model to read. We knew that we also needed search services. Those are optional, but for us, we already kind of from our earlier experiences knew that when we wanted to go into like kind of these more free-formed, like kind of product discovery type questions, it was really going to accelerate and improve the user experience if we had those in place. And then the agent configuration, the instructions, the model, et cetera. So we started looking at our stack and figuring out how we were going to implement all this. So we started from our dbt model documentation. And so any of you who are familiar with dbt, you've got your models, your kind of logical table name, the description, the columns, descriptions, and data types at that level. We were like, okay, this is great. This is a jumping off point for our semantic view. We're just going to extend this. We're going to use the meta field kind of feature within dbt to add additional semantic information that we wanted to push into Snowflake. So we found aliases, synonyms, sample values, whether or not we wanted to index a particular field with the Cortex search service to be able to perform fuzzy matching. And we just extended all this into our dbt model templates. Easy enough. From there, the semantic views in Snowflake, they're YAML files. They look, if any of you built semantic views and other tools, or BI tools, it looks very similar. So we're like, okay, well, great. We're just going to build little Jinja templates on top of that to produce the YAML files. So you'll see we've kind of pulled together the manifest. We'll pull it into the context. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go reference my orders model. I'm just going to pull the description through, pull the dimensions through, the facts. And the only things I'm really kind of adding into this template that are interesting here are derived metrics. So I want to run certain calculations to have well-defined metrics that are available within the semantic view. I think we had our relationships in here. And then as Santiago was speaking to earlier, we also introduced verified queries here. For primarily in our use case, we were looking for things that didn't quite fit cleanly into maybe a derived metric definition. but something that we wanted to show the agent, how do I produce this type of a query? So for us, just for context, it's something like retention rates, where it's like, okay, there's an initial cohort, and there's a size of how many customers did I bring in March, and then how many of them came back and purchased in June or in the next quarter. So we provide a couple of verified queries like that in these semantic views. And then ultimately kind of built this out into our deployment pipeline. So when we go to deploy into Snowflake and to build an intelligence, we will run dbt, we'll run a compile command to build a manifest file. We'll pull all that together with our semantic view templates and YAML, the agent instructions. We have this little library called Decile Cortex Gen, which effectively goes off to Snowflake, and it provisions multiple layers of the stack, from the semantic views used by Cortex analyst, to the search services, to the agents for Snowflake Intelligence. So all that kind of gets packaged up very neatly for us, just coming off of our deployment pipeline. And so here, in the not too many developer days after that, we basically started to have a stack that looked like this. We had our manifest file coming through. We were deploying all these into Snowflake. And then through the Snowflake Intelligence UI, we were able to pull users in really quickly. So for us, time to market was imperative. And what we really liked was in the Snowflake stack, we could start with the UI. We could pull in a couple of our trusted client accounts, people that we knew were kind of be familiar, like kind of logging into Snowflake, accessing intelligence. And we gave them access, July. We were like, okay, start playing around with this. Let's start iterating together. I want to start observing what types of questions they're asking, start to use that to inform, where we're investing, how we're building out our models, et cetera. So, they started asking these really cool questions that in the past would have been, some of them would have been, more time-consuming analyses. My favorite session was one of our clients came in and was like, I launched a new product earlier, last month. How's it performing? And I was like, oh man, and our pre-existing solution, there's a couple of different ways I would think about that. Is it bringing in kind of a new client demographic? I would go to one report for that. How is it reporting or performing in terms of returns? Okay, well, there's a product returns report. Let me go look at that. Let me go look at whether or not these people are coming back and making another purchase, or what are they co-purchasing? All those things kind of pulled together. She just sat down. She just rapid-fired questions within 15 minutes. Without having to do any sort of kind of deep diving into reports to kind of mine the insights herself, or setting filters to limit it to the particular new fabric that they had launched. She had these answers. That was really cool. It was really cool to see that. In the past, it would have been like, why don't you guys go do that for me? So one of the other pieces that kind of led to us adopting Snowflake was the fact that it's not just a UI, but that they have API level access at every level of the stack. So the same things that we were showing in Snowflake Intelligence earlier, you get all that through the Cortex Agents API. So for us, we were able to port that experience, the same experience that our initial pilot customers had, into our own application and produce our own branded e-commerce analyst, AI-powered e-commerce analyst named Luma, as a feature within our application. All again, this is just an API integration. It was sitting on top of the same resources. There was no new provisioning that we needed to do. So we were able to kind of migrate those initial customers from the Snowflake Intelligence UI into Cortex agents. Similarly, there's APIs at the Cortex analyst level. So if we ever wanted to pop off and maybe do inferencing in a different framework, we could also take Cortex analyst and its text-to-SQL capabilities, leverage that in kind of whatever other kind of agentic frameworks we needed to use. So for us, this has been a game changer. We've been able to take all this information that was previously locked behind dashboards and make it accessible to our clients through a natural language chat interface. I'm just going to walk through a little bit of what this looks like for our clients. So again, we've had a couple of our clients, Emily at Lake Pajamas and Becky at Caddis Eyewear. They were early pilot users for us, and this is kind of what they said, that they were like, hey, we weren't doing the analysis before. It was taking us too much time to go access the data. Even when we had like kind of reports, they were like, I would go download 2 things, try to stitch things together to really understand what was going on. And they didn't have to do that anymore. And their marketing channel owners are now empowered to come in and actually make those queries or ask the questions that they're looking for and get the results back. The other thing that all of our clients have really highlighted in the feedback is the thinking steps that Santiago was showing earlier. Being able to see what the agent is doing in the background, and not just at a SQL level. You can do it at a SQL level if you know SQL. But because the semantic view is in place, it's like, hey, I'm going to go hit this field and I'm filtering for this. Or I'm going to look at this property over here. Seeing it at that level has given our users a lot of confidence that the data that they're seeing is accurate and complete. I fundamentally don't think that we would actually have a product without those thinking steps because it's just too much of a black box. And that natural like kind of ideation and collaboration that happens when you're actually sitting in person with an analyst, like, oh, I asked, can I have this? Go run a market basket analysis for me for the last 2 years. Oh, okay, I'll start last November. Oh, actually, we changed our products in March. Let's just go back to March of 2024 and go run that same analysis. Since the thinking steps kind of shows you what it's doing along every step of the way, clients come in and they can kind of course correct throughout the session, and that's been great. So for us, on the Decile side, what Snowflake Intelligence has given us is really a turnkey AI framework to quickly launch to our customers. We're able to provide quicker access. We were able to get our product and our agents in the market faster and start building confidence that we had something that was viable, even before we ran through the integration into our own application. But because it has the flexibility of not just the UI, but all the API endpoints underneath, we had flexibility going forward in terms of how we might want to iterate and evolve our agentic solution. But already it's reduced the stream of custom analytics reports that we're doing. It's helped our users transition from like mining data in a report to actually extracting the insights. For the clients that are already on our AI solution, we see about a 75% reduction in their support asks. So they're able to come in. One value prop of ours is like running segmentation. They're able to come in and just express what segments they do without having to understand like group by logic, for instance. They're just able to say like, hey, I want to go find people who purchased the same product 3+ times over the last 6 months because I want them to join my subscription program. They're able to come in, just type that out and get to a customer segment that they can then activate through our platform and go push up to their ESP and immediately run like a campaign against them. So for us, this has been like a game changer, and we've been really excited to partner with Snowflake on getting this product to market. Roadmap on our side, like I mentioned, this first step for us has been, after we got Snowflake Intelligence stood up, integrating with the Agents API, really pulling all of that experience into our own application. And again, that's one-to-one with what you see within the intelligence world. Optimizing workflows within our application, making the data portable. So if you saw like some of the results in the previous slides, we can take like a table of like customer IDs, effectively just click a button, migrate it to a segment within our platform, and then click another button, and then go sync it up to Klaviyo for some sort of an email campaign. Next things for us, and I think this is kind of a critical point for us, in terms of making this product successful, is being able to customize like kind of the instructions on a per brand level. Again, we're working with 150-ish kind of clients. It's hard for us to like kind of manage all the nuances of every brand, right? One brand runs a gift program on a certain platform. Others run subscriptions on, there's 3 or 4 different like primary vendors on the Shopify world. Wholesale, retail, how they want to handle that. What they mean by customer value. All that information is context that we kind of know about the brands, but being able to encode that and push that up to the agent. And then I think aspirationally, being able to work with kind of the hands-on keyboard, more employees, to be able to infuse those types of instructions and the context about who the brand is into the agent themselves to help inform the agent what types of analyses it should be running. For different types of verticals within the e-commerce space. And the last thing on our piece is actually trying to build scheduling and alerting. Again, when we're trying to build like an agentic e-commerce analyst, an analyst should be able to run background tasks for you, right? Like wake up Monday morning, go run anomaly detection, go tell me if I have like an inventory item that I need to go like restock, tell me if sales of a particular product fell off last week. These are things that people are doing with our platform today that ultimately now that we have agents in place, being able to like have, enable our clients to schedule that on a recurring basis, to be able to say like, go pop that up on Monday and go, give me this report. Just like they would if they had like a human analyst in-house. So these are some of the exciting features that we're looking to build into Luma here shortly. If you want to learn more about Luma AI by Decile, you can go access that QR code there. It'll take you to our product page.
Okay, that's all I had for you. But we did have a demo plan. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But if you come by the Snowflake booth, we'd be happy to show you Snowflake Intelligence in real time. And Brian and I will be here and be available if you all want to chat anymore. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you.